Hey y'all, it is I, Anthony the Canadian Guy, and welcome to Wrestlesode. Today we are talking to Vancouver's own, the Haida Heartthrob, Adam Ryder. Now, I was so spoiled. I actually got to see Adam Ryder wrestle twice in 1 week in two separate provinces when I went to Vancouver and then also in Edmonton at the LPW show and the NEW shows. I got to watch him. I got to have this interview with him and learn more about him. He is such an awesome guy. This was such a fun interview. We had some great questions during the Q&A section. And it was really great to be able to connect with Adam, learn more about the Vancouver scene. Like I was saying, I'm still trying to learn more about that. Going out there and seeing my first NEW show was really great, and hopefully I'll get to go out and see some more. If you guys like watching these Wrestlesodes, we do record them live Tuesday nights over at Twitch at twitch.tv/Jupiter Vision. The next one that'll be recorded this Tuesday will be tonight if you're watching this. Will be with Cobra Kai. So remember to tune into those if you guys want to see any Wrestlesodes recorded live. You can also check us out on social medias at Wrestlesode. Don't forget that like button, subscribe button, leave a comment below, or even a question for one of the wrestlers that we've interviewed or a wrestler you would love to see interviewed. Anyways, enough about me. Let's get into our interview with Adam Ryder. Here we go. Adam, can you hear me? Can you see me? Right there.
Perfect. I can see you.
Perfect. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you holding up today?
I'm doing fantastic. First up, thank you so much for joining me here today and putting up with my new software to make sure everything worked nice and smooth, but it worked out quite nicely in this case. How are you? How's life in Vancouver? How hot is it? Because I know it's that time of year, and I got to know what I'm about to walk into this weekend.
Oh, you're looking at this weekend. You're going to hit the mild time. Well, I mean, mild time, about 26 degrees. Right now, it's about 28 to 30. I don't know which right now. But, yeah, it's tolerable. But, man, I'm not going to lie, man. I am knee-deep in the water and the white wine tonight.
Well, that's fantastic. Oh, we should have a very lively, active conversation then, unless you consider white wine to essentially be water, which I know some people can. Not me. I can't do that, but...
I'm an athlete, the lightweight. Who knows?
You're what you need to be given on the situation, I suppose, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So first up, okay, thank you for joining me. Now, I have to say, I'm still learning a little bit about the Vancouver scene. It is still new. Obviously, I'm based out of the Alberta area. I know this scene very well. So I do know that you've come here recently, and you have been here in the past, and you have been through Alberta. You have spent some time, I believe, with Lance Storm. So it's not like to say that you're not used to the Alberta scene, but in terms of Vancouver, I haven't seen you develop. I've watched matches. I've got my chance to catch up, but this will be my first chance this weekend. And you will be taking on someone I'm very familiar with in terms of the Alberta scene, Michael Richard Blaze. And he's said nothing but great things about you in a kind of interesting way. For a guy who hit me
in the face with the belt this past weekend, I still don't mind him as a person.
It's interesting, right? He's kind of got that, like, je ne sais quoi, you know what I mean? Like, there's just something about him. It's there.
Yeah. It's something that attracts you to him. It might be his whole voice. It might be the whole. Maybe I'm part of the clandestine society. Who knows?
I mean, he is our savior. I mean, if you want to let him save you, I know a book that he has that you could read. And I'm sure, he saved a lot of people here in Alberta. It's been a very saved place.
Well, if I see that book, I think next weekend, I'll probably just do something. Might shine it up a little bit and put it somewhere where the sun don't shine, and I decided I won't quote The Rock today, but that just might end up going somewhere.
As soon as you did the hand motions, I was immediately like, "Oh, this man likes The Rock. That's fantastic." Who doesn't? I mean, that's a really good question.
Let's be real. Everybody watching loves The Rock, right? Let's hear it out there if you do.
I'm out here and I love The Rock. This actually brings me to a great place for us to start pulling it all the way back. How did Adam Ryder start falling in love in the world of wrestling? I mean, everybody's got a different story about how it started in their life. How did it start in Adam Ryder's life?
3 years old, loved Hulk Hogan, saw it with my dad, and was like, "Oh, this is amazing." I loved it. And I was a small kid from Smithers, BC. I don't know if you know where that is.
I have no idea.
It is like 12 hours west of Edmonton in a drive. It's if you go to Prince George, go further. Yeah, that's where it is.
Oh, okay. So it's out there in the Alberta equivalent of the boonies, but the BC boonies.
5,000 people max in that town, and then even then, the closest place that was with a big city was Prince George, and so that gives you a feel right there. I ended up growing up in Smithers, and I loved it watching wrestling growing up. I didn't watch it when you're 3 and you're like, "Oh, that's cool," and then obviously you're a kid, we'll never watch it again if it doesn't come up. But then when I was about 10. I remember watching Shane McMahon in a ring on Raw, talking on a mic, and a cage was descending, and there was X-Pac sitting on the top of it, and he just did a dive off the top of it on top of Shane McMahon, and I was like, holy shit, I love this. So I started watching every week religiously afterwards. I started actually renting tapes from Video Update back in the day. Eventually became Movie Gallery.
Okay, well, I know what a movie gallery is at least.
Video Update was the thing before, man, and then Movie Gallery bought that, or else rebranded. I have no idea at this point, but I would rent videos. I'd rent the old VHSs, the WWE VHSs, all the way from like '94 up till probably then. I wouldn't go before '94. I don't know, just because I didn't recognize people. But I loved. I'd rent them for about 53 cents a day. So my weekends would be going and renting a 53-cent video, and I'd watch it for the day or the weekend or whatever I had. I'd pay the 53-cent late charge if I did. I felt like I was wasting my money if I didn't bring it back so I'd get another VHS.
Right. That could have been another VHS that's 53 cents. That's more content.
Exactly. So I ended up watching. I loved Razor Ramon. I loved Shawn Michaels. I loved Bret Hart. And obviously, I was watching Raw at the same time. Like, I love Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock. I thought The Rock was an asshole, and I still loved him. And yeah, it was great. I loved it all. So I kind of fell in love with it right from probably then onwards.
That's amazing. So, were you sold your whole life? Like, have you been watching religiously since? Or did you get to that stage where it's like, oh, I'm a teenager now. Life is going to get in the way, and I'm not going to watch wrestling for 10 years and then fall back in love with it? Like, did that happen in your life?
As you've probably already guessed, it happens to everybody, doesn't it?
I mean, that's my story, so I assume that's everybody else's too, right?
It legit is every wrestling person's story. I'm going to ask you. No, I'm going to ask you a question because you're going to bounce it back on me in a second.
All right.
What was your match that got you back into wrestling after that hiatus? There's always one match that you're like, that one. What was yours?
Okay, so it's funny because it wasn't a match, it was a promo, but then there was a match that followed it up. So
Who's promo and whose match?
So if believe it or not, I know this is going to burn somebody out there, but it was Enzo and Cass debuting on the main roster when they came out against the Dudley Boys.
All the way in 2014. Holy shit.
Was it 14? Was it or 15? I think it was 15.
Okay, 15.
15 or 16. It was in that area, but yeah, my friend sent me this link to the video, and he's just like, dude, you got to watch this. And what really got it for me was the way they described it. Like, these guys were from another thing. They were from NXT. I didn't know what this was at the time, but they're like, they're from this other place. But every single person in the audience knew that, like, you can't teach that. And they knew it to a T. And I immediately went, what the hell is going on in wrestling? Who are these two? I got to watch this.
Enzo is on my list of people I'd love to meet and wrestle. And it's like, I don't know how he is as a person. I have no idea, but God knows I would love a chance to meet him because, like, even just meet him and work him just because I just want to cut a promo on me. Just do it. Just do it. That's all I want.
He's got such a raw promo. And I mean, I think that's what made me fall in love with him. Like, because I could tell he was not somebody they were scripting. Like, immediately I was like, they were just giving him the mic and he was going out there and insulting the Dudley Boys and just, saying that, like, fall back like your hairline, all that stuff. I remember the lines because it was so powerful. And then I was like, oh, what's this? And then I found NXT, and then I got to watch Finn Balor versus Shinsuke, and then that was the match. I was just like, okay, my life is over. I'm back in wrestling.
Nice.
How about you? What was that for you then?
Oh, dude. So mine was like, if you don't mind me asking, I do have to ask you, and I know I'm asking you a lot of questions, but I gotta know. How old are you?
I am 34.
34. Okay, so you had a break, a good long break. I'm 34 as well.
Perfect.
Let's never tell
age. Right? It's just a good year.
Everybody on here, please don't ever repeat that. So
we're 27. We're a young, healthy 27.
There you go. Yeah. So I ended up. So mine was actually much earlier. I gave up when I was a kid. I was like, all right. Actually, it was funny because I gave up in about. It was a short time period, but I gave up between like 2003 probably to about 2005. Okay. And I just subtly watched. I did, all right, that's cool. Little things. But the match that got me back into it in 2005, I was in grade 11 at the time, was I'd never really heard of this little thing back in the day, called TNA. and I ended up watching Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, and Christopher Daniels.
The cruiserweight, or the not the cruiserweight, the X Division Championship match. Yes.
From Unbreakable 2005, the best triple threat match to ever happen. Fucking ever. Anybody tries to compare, it's like, no, get out of here. There's not a chance in hell. The crowd, the match, the fucking timing, everything was perfect. And it's like, and it may be a little bit of nostalgia in my brain, and I'm okay with that. But it's probably one of the best matches that I ever did. It brought me back in where I was like, man, I love this. And so my friend showed it to me, and I was like, I want to know more. And so I started watching more TNA. I actually watched ROH from early on, thenwards too. And I started watching guys like Alex Shelley, started watching guys like Roderick Strong, all these guys back when they first started. And it was impressive to watch, just because got me thinking, this is amazing. And from then on, I kind of loved it. I went to actually Capilano College for film, and I decided, you know what, this is not for me. I want to do wrestling. And I watched my first show, which was an ECCW show in 2006, and it was a match between El Phantasmo and Kyle O'Reilly, actually, way back then. And I watched it, and I said, I want to do this. I want to do this.
And what great inspiration, because like those two are from the Pacific Northwest. They're all from like, BC area. So it's just like, hey, if they can do it, what am I doing with my life, right?
Yeah, don't tell El Phantasmo that. That would,
he doesn't believe it. He's from Japan.
He's a good dude. I like him. I like him a lot.
I gotta say, the Capilano College for Film, a competitor to my Vancouver film school back in the. And then I had friends who I'm trying to remember the other one right now. I've been thinking about it, but there was like a third film school that I can't think of the name of.
When did you go? What year?
2006 to 2007.
Dude, we would have been in the same friggin' year if we ended up going to the same school.
That's pretty scary. I went for video game design and production, so I didn't actually go for film. We would have just been friends. You'd have been making like the intro videos, and I'd been making video games, and that'd have been cool stuff, right?
There you go. That would have been cool. It'd been cool. I was really hoping there'd be some sort of like, lineup of things where it's like, hey, it's like we meet each other and like all of a sudden, wow, amazing.
It could still happen. We have Saturday. Just wait. It's going to happen.
To be fair, I did, though, when I went to university, that's where I actually met somebody who showed me independent wrestling. I didn't even know it existed, to be honest. I didn't even know. I didn't know ECW existed. I didn't know wrestling in Vancouver existed at all, except I met a friend at university at Capilano College who actually took me to a show. And then I met one of the wrestlers who's actually one of my good friends now. And he actually retired, but he's like, watching him got me started in this stuff, which is pretty cool.
That's amazing. You want to throw some names out there? Give them the credit.
The girls who know me, they wrestled a long time ago. His name was Volcano. He wrestled in like ECW years ago, and it's like that's the guy who got me started in the first place. So yeah, it was very cool. Very cool.
I gotta say it's weird because like I grew up in the Alberta scene. Like I grew up just outside of Calgary. Like I knew about Stampede Wrestling, but I didn't really understand it as a kid. Like I knew about the Hart family because they were legends in Calgary, but I didn't quite understand it. And it wasn't until I got back into wrestling and I learned about the independent scene where I was just like, oh, holy crap, the independent scene is amazing.
Man, when you were in Vancouver, you missed it in 06. You could have come out to ECCW shows and hung for me.
I these days, I completely regret it because, like, I was making video games for a living. Like, I could have... And I was in, like, the worst part of Vancouver, too, because they put me on, like, the very corner of West and East Hastings. Like, that's where my college was. Like, you know where that park is? Where
I know.
That's my corner. Yeah.
Things. Like, yeah. You were, like, right there.
I was right there, and I would get off school at 2 a.m. in the morning. Exactly. So... When I talk to people from Vancouver, I was on East Hastings. They're like, "Oh my God, you're alive!" Like, but so
that's the one thing. East Hastings may be like have the worst rep, but Hastings is like in Vancouver. So everybody kind of watching this knows Hastings is like you've probably never seen anything like it. It is actually like a street full of a lot of homeless people, but it's like they're all conglomerated into this one space, and it's mind blowing. But believe it or not, Hastings is probably one of the safest streets in town is because it's policed by cops all day long. It's the ones that are on the side streets. That's where you're going to get fucked up.
Yeah, so as long as you stay on East Hastings and you don't just go off into a back alley, you're usually pretty safe, even at 2 a.m., right? Just lock the door because they will come up to the car.
And there's a lot of things you've never expected you'd see. You'll see.
Oh, yes. I will say East Hastings is definitely a learning opportunity for anybody who wants to go from kid to adult. Like, just drive down East Hastings, and you get a bit of a feel for like, okay, life isn't the same for everybody, and but it gives you a good perspective on life too, right? Like, because like it makes you want to help people, right? Like, you drive down there and you're
It
like, okay,
actually
well,
really does. Like I ended up the last show we're at. This that not. I'm gonna put myself over a little bit.
do it.
No, but it's like small things like where last wrestling show we're at. There's someone who's like, hey, ask me for stuff. I'm like, come with me, and I bought him a bunch of food and a bunch of drinks just because. And it's like because there's so many people that need help on that street, that need help in general out here in Vancouver. So it does put your perspective. It does, really does.
It really, and it's interesting because in Vancouver's downtown scene is a completely interesting like world in itself, because it really breaks down both in architecture and like personality types and literally everything based on where you are downtown. Because you get like Yale Town and you get like really cool microbreweries and great little food and all that kind of stuff. And then you
Yeah.
get like near Burrard and it's all professional and like food carts and everything. And you know what I mean? Like it's interesting because downtown is such a wide plethora of things in Vancouver.
Oh, dude, it's insane. It's insane what you can run into there. But it's also good. You can see a lot of good stuff. You can see amazing food.
The
I love.
food. Oh, I miss the food.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you.
Actually,
Me
I'm going to
too.
ask you a question that I asked Tony Brony because it was a very important question because it changed. So, in what role did Uncle Fatty's have in changing your life? Because my God, is that the best pizza in the world?
Dude, it's not my favorite pizza. I'm so sorry. I'm not gonna.
Oh,
I know I'm the bastard. I'm the fucking weird guy.
in
I'm not gonna.
Vancouver, you must. That's like a hot take, right? Like even to you and your circle, or is it like
Well,
changed in the last 10 years?
well, I'm a Pizza Garden guy. As silly as a Pizza Garden, I know is in more places, but man, I love Pizza Garden way more. It just turns out like better. I always found. I don't know. That was my go-to when I was in downtown, especially. Like I'll find a Pizza Garden and go there every time. But that's me. That's me.
That's everybody's got a thing. Like, don't feel bad. I remember I brought it up with Tony Burke because I was like, "Oh, Uncle Fatty was fantastic. Like, it was like depression killing in college." And he's like, "It helped me stop smoking." And I was like, "That's just the best story in the world." So,
That's amazing. That's amazing.
so how did it get started in the Vancouver scene? So, like, you went in, you saw some shows, you had a friend that was doing it, so he was just like, "Hey, come along, let's train." Like, how did that exactly start in your world?
Um. Okay, so it was different than that. It was a little different than that.
Okay.
So what happened is I ended up going to. I ended up deciding I'm going to go train. Decided I could go get trained in Vancouver, but my friend was saying it's like, well, I'm going to Calgary. His name's Michael May. He wrestles in Alberta. Actually, just moved out here to Vancouver. But he didn't wrestle. He ended up trying to do Storms for a while, and we're like, yeah, let's do it together. And by the end, he couldn't make it happen at the time, so he had to take many years to kind of take a break to get things together for life. And he went to a different path, and he only finally came back recently, which is really cool. But he inspired me to want to save up to go to Calgary, so I moved out there and lived with him for 3 months while I went and did Storms Wrestling Academy. And there was actually a lot of Australians. Actually, there was like literally 9 Australians and 5 Canadians in that class.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good. It was crazy. And then I went and got trained. It was probably the hardest 3 months of my life. It was one because I thought I prepared properly. I did not. And so what I did is I ended up working 2 jobs. And I'd go to training. I'd wake up in the morning, probably about 7 a.m., go catch a bus at about 8:30. We'd be at training for about 9:30, and then we'd have started at 10 o'clock, go right till 1 o'clock. So we do like straight cardio for about an hour to hour and a half, and
Jeez.
then we either start doing we do training, so we do bumps, learning moves, or else by the last few weeks last 6 weeks we did matches. So it was cool. My second match ever, my second mock match ever was against Lance.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
yeah, and I was like, oh shit, I was intimidated, but we had a good match. It was a good one. He even said, I was like, no, that was good. So I was like, okay, cool. And he gives us strict feedback. So after the 12 weeks of when I was, and when I was working in those 12 weeks, by the way, I ended up, I worked a job at a pizza place, and then ended up, it was called Wicked Wedge in Calgary there,
Okay.
and then I ended up going. I worked that, and then I also worked in a nightclub called Tequila Nightclub. And I was working those 2 jobs back to back, so I was up till about like 4 a.m. at both jobs, depending what it was, and then I'd have to go to training the next day at about fucking 10 a.m. So I burnt myself out so bad, I ended up getting strep throat that turned into laryngitis, that turned into bronchitis. some all between those 12 weeks. I ended up getting a boot in my. I got booted in the shoulder and tore my. I had a small tear in my rotator cuff from getting punted in the shoulder, and that was a poor kick. But it ended up, tore my rotator cuff a little bit, and I had to kind of work through it. But I did that all within the 12 weeks, and it was cool. I came out because at the very end of it, Lance gives this hard, fucking super stiff feedback at the very end, and it's good. It's like stiff, but it's what you need to hear. And I'll tell you, I'll give you a spectrum of it. There's the guy who literally is like, hey, yeah, you're good to go. You've got to work on a couple things here. Nothing too much. You're good to go. And then you have the other guy at the other end of the spectrum who's like, yeah, you should never wrestle again. And then I was I was more not the middle. I was actually a little more up on the positive, which is good. He said, out of all the Canadians, I was the best one to get started.
Perfect.
I just need to slow down a little bit and get my shit together. Okay, no problem. And so I took his feedback to heart and I took my time. But even after that, after training, I didn't get started until about 5 months later when I got my gear and everything else. I had to I had to recoup a bunch of money, figure it all out, and everything else. And I did. And then I started traveling with a guy named the Mauler from Prince George, and we would literally drive a minimum 8 hours any direction to wrestle a show. So he thankfully been doing it for years. So I jump in with a car with him, and we drive 8 hours to Edmonton, and we work a double shot for RCW for a squig.
Nice.
Or we drive to even to Calgary, things like that, to go work for a few things down there. Then we'd also go down south to Kelowna to work for things like All Star or Thrash Wrestling. And then we'd also drive about 9.5 hours to Vancouver to work a double shot in Vancouver. So it was nonstop travel in my first 2 years of my wrestling career. I put more road miles on than I think probably anybody else that year. Because every second weekend I was gone for a double shot. So it was nuts. It was nuts.
And so you loved it so much, working day in, day out, traveling so much. I mean, how did you not burn yourself out? Like, something like that's really got to take a toll on a person. It's got to change you.
No, it burned me out a lot, but at the same time, like, you do it because you love it, especially when I'm young, and who gives a shit? When I'm young, when I was 20 years old, no problem. It's a little different now. But
Now that we're 27.
now I'm 27. And it's funny because a lot more now. I'm trying to now. I try to be a little bit more efficient with things. Use it think of it as a business a little more, right? And not even just now, but the past few years, I've been trying to do that. COVID years, even I try to do that. So and wrestling has kind of changed for me a little bit more. Where I am having a lot more fun. I'm trying to push a little more. I'm actually down more in the States a lot more. So obviously from where we started, where we travel minimum 8 hours. I'm trying to be smart now and be like, okay, I'm gonna go just travel. Maybe I'll travel the 5 hours to Portland, but I'm gonna make it count a little more than I did back in the day.
That's awesome to hear. So, and I mean, if you look at your cage match this year, it has definitely been one of your most active years in terms of different promotions. And so, and I know you said you were doing tons of shifts back in the day. You were going road to road. How do you make it seem like, oh, I'm making it count more these days, and yet you're still hitting everywhere by the looks of it?
What's crazy is that in my first 2 years, I worked way more than I did. Not way more than I did this year, because this past last month, I never worked probably more. I worked 16 matches in 27 days. And
Wow.
that sucked. So it was just not sucked, but it was exhausting. So you gotta right now. What I kind of learned from that, even I'm like, there's times when it's okay to kind of take a step back, because I also work another job on the side right now, and that's kind of it all just adds up. All the hours end up adding up. So what I've kind of learned is that there are different places to put your time in when people are investing in you. If a company invests in you, you put the time in and you invest back in them, and that's the trick. That's the trick of it all. Is just invest in the company that wants to invest in you. And there's a lot of companies out there that will invest in you. If I had to give my advice to any wrestler, go to a company, be an asset. And I mean, be an asset sorry, I'm diving a little off topic here. I apologize. But
No, I like it. I'm lost in listening to this. It's great.
Oh, cool. If there's any aspiring wrestler out there, here's my bit of advice I tell everybody when they're getting started. You are either an asset or you're a liability. And you can be either one. You can literally be either one. A liability is somebody who is taking away from the show. An asset is someone who's adding to the show. If If you're not an asset, you're a liability. And an asset can be somebody who literally just shows up, helps set up the ring. Guess what? You're an asset because you helped out. You once you get better at wrestling, guess what? Now you're a wrestler. Hey, you can add to the show because you can wrestle. Cool, you're an asset. Um, but if you just show up and you're all of a sudden you're on a show and you're like maybe you're not ready, maybe you're not good enough. Well, guess what? You're actually a liability because one, you can get hurt, you can hurt other people, you can do other things and end up hurting a lot of other people. Maybe you show up to a show and you can't wrestle, and you're not helping out with the ring. Well, you're a liability now. You're literally just a body there that should be paying a ticket. So always think what you can do to help out a show, because whatever you can do to help out a show makes you more of an asset and makes that company want to invest in you. Always. So put yourself out there and be the asset. Don't be the liability.
And I got to say, it's really working in your case here because, like I said, you've been wrestling for so many different promotions. So clearly, no matter where you're going, you're trying to make yourself, hey, I'm going to be an asset here, no matter what the chase is going to be. So that sounds like a great piece of advice. It's always just work hard, be an asset.
Well, that's the other bit. Is like, and that really could be in any business.
Yeah.
It could be really used across any business, but use it for wrestling. I'll give you a good example. You know what I did? I went to Portland and wrestled I didn't wrestle. I was actually just showing up for a seminar for Malachi Black at Prestige Wrestling. And I ended up going down to Prestige Wrestling because I knew it was going to be a hot show. I knew that the seminar for Malachi Black was going to be amazing. And it was awesome. And I just talked to Malachi Black a bit and bullshitted about the people, we know, similar people we know. It was fantastic. I loved hanging out with him. It was fun. Did you know on that show, I ended up doing all I did at the end of the next show is I ended up helping the promoter. All I did is I literally asked, what do you need? And he said, I need people to help with the sponsors. So I ended up going around talking to all the sponsors, making sure they had everything they need. And they were happy by the end of the show. I ended up actually getting a little spot in the show. I was one of the boys for Dalton Castle.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. And to be honest, I was an asset on the show because I wanted to help out the promoter. And you cut your teeth. And man, I was doing this for 13 years and I'm still doing that. I didn't care. I was like, you want to be an asset? Fucking make yourself an asset. Doesn't matter. Take your ego out of it. It doesn't matter. And you know what I'm doing literally in a month from now? I'm wrestling Alan Angels on Prestige Wrestling. I get to wrestle in a one-on-one match with Alan Angels, fucking former AEW wrestler. Yeah. And so if you can make yourself an asset to any company and you invest in them, and they'll invest back in you. So always try to be an asset.
That's absolutely amazing advice. And I got to say, you've clearly had a very well, or I don't want to say how I'm going to say this perfect, but you've had a very good career. Like, you've clearly had consistency there. It doesn't seem like there was a year you didn't wrestle. You always had something going. What would you say, like, your biggest lessons outside of just saying, hey, be an asset, but like as a wrestler, what would you say your biggest lesson learned was, like, to make sure that you could make it in the business, right? Like, clearly putting your time into a promotion is a very important thing, and like working incredibly hard, but there's different things for different people. A piece of advice that you might give to somebody who's just starting out, because like some people will say, hey, you know what, I don't do enough social media, hey, I don't spend enough time in the ring. Like, what do you think is the most important thing?
Self-awareness. As weird as that is, it's a little more deeper thought process. Self-awareness is to where you are in wrestling. Are you at a spot where you're good enough? Are you good enough to wrestle? Yes. Check. Okay, cool. You're a wrestler. You can go wrestle. Awesome. Are you good enough to do XYZ move? If it's no, don't do it. Focus on the things that you can do. Always focus on the things you can do. Be self-aware of what you can and can't do. Because there's a lot of people, like, you can try out new things in matches, no question. But practice things first, and practice your moves, and then if they don't look good, don't do them in a wrestling match. And the reason I say it is because you can get more out of less in wrestling by doing a lot less. You know what I mean? So I think if I had advice, be very self-aware of where you are, what your level is. If you're like up here, awesome, go nuts, try everything, because you can do it safely. You can take care of your opponent. You can do all this other stuff. Fantastic. Try out all these things. Enjoy yourself. Do the crazy stuff. Don't stop training. That's the other thing. Don't stop training. And always be humble. Always be an asset. Those are the best advice. That's the best advice I can give you. Especially always be humble. If you think you're the shit somewhere, guess what? You go down the road, no one knows your name. No one knows who you are. I went to the States this year, and I'd been a little bit to the States before. No one knew what I could do. No one knows who I am. and that's okay. It's totally understandable. You have to make your name everywhere else. And if you're an asshole in one area and that gets to the next area, guess what? You're the asshole that went from here to there, and you ain't going anywhere else. So always be humble. Yeah.
I like that. And then you also kind of have to like prove yourself to that audience or to that new market, right? Because like they don't know who I am. They don't know what I'm capable of. So now I get to like lure them into my trap. I can make them think anything I want. I could make them think I'm really terrible, then all of a sudden blow their minds. You know what I mean? You could do anything. That's what I love about wrestling.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Have you ever done anything like that where you walked into a town and you're just like, oh, I'm gonna make them think I'm just absolutely terrible, then just blow their minds? Has that ever happened?
No, I've never. Well, I've never been like. I've never decided to like. Because if I go in like looking like shit, no one's gonna want to book me again. So I try to just kind of. I will. I try to understand where I'm on the card, so I don't like screw up anyone else's spot or anything like that. But at the same time, I try to stand out a little more by getting me over in the different ways that I can. So no, I've never really kind of blown, never decided to like try and blow anybody's mind, because the problem is this: if you're the shits and someone sees, like, if they think you're the shits right from the get go, they ain't even gonna watch your match. So,
That's very fair. I suppose that's very true. You got to think about it from that perspective as well. I mean, I'll come at it from this perspective because I stopped watching WWE for a short period of time and I got to watch Pat McAfee at WrestleMania. Had no idea the dude could do a backflip off the turnbuckle and land it on his feet. And it was one of those moments where I just went, oh wow, oh wow, apparently he can do that. So I always love getting blown away. But I guess when you go to a new market, you could still do that even without having to make them think you're terrible. Just blow them away.
yeah, that's the thing, is when you're agented well too. So the thing is, when you get all the time to practice this match and someone guides you through everything, like, the thing is this: WWE's got such a good system of setting things up and helping people out. You're learning literally from the best in the world. There's no way there is a way you can screw it up, but there's a better chance you're not going to, because one, you have either weeks to set it up and then make sure you don't look like an asshole, or else there's two where it's like these guys are going to make sure you understand everything and hit every point that you need to. Because I'll tell you this: Johnny Knoxville doesn't need to know what an arm drag is to go do his match. He doesn't need to know what a drop toe hold is. That's what I mean. So these guys, they have like perfect trainers to kind of tailor that kind of stuff to them. So even Logan Paul, it's like he doesn't need to know half this shit. He just needs to hit his spots, get in, get out. And that's literally wrestling in a nutshell. You hit your spots, get in, get out. Don't do things that you can't do, because it just proves that you're weak at shit if you make it look bad. So yeah.
I always love when like the world kind of has that crossover, and like you said, like a Logan Paul, but specifically Johnny Knoxville in WrestleMania blew me away. Right? I'm like, I know that he can put his body through a lot of different stuff, but just he's so willing to entertain people. Like I walked into his match with Sami Zayn, I was just thoroughly entertained the whole time.
Yeah, that's the thing though. Is like he hit his spots. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think he knew his spots, but he's like, what if I tried this? Yeah, that sounds great. That's perfect. We can make it work in wrestling. But that's like Sami Zayn being like, we're gonna make it work right here and here and here. And it's like, when you have somebody that's that fucking good, it's easy.
Oh yeah, where that hand came out of nowhere and slapped Sami Zayn from off camera, just perfect. Like the first time you saw it, oh, it was
Oh, yeah.
just so well done. Like everything
Oh,
from the match to the cinematography was beautiful.
one can guarantee they planned this out like 2 weeks in advance. Like, they had everything figured out, right? Like the camera angle, everything. Like, they had a mock ring set up so they could do the camera angle. I was like, oh, what if we tilted it like this? So the cameraman knew what to do. And it's like, that's the benefit of WWE, is they have all this time to set this stuff up and do this stuff now. They have a lot more time now because they've stopped traveling on the road as much for house shows.
Oh. I like to hear this kind of come from you because, like you said, you've also done film school. So I assume, like, the whole, and I mean, this doesn't come naturally to everybody, but the the entertainer aspect of being a wrestler, the cutting the promo, the know how to talk to a crowd or how to stand in front of people, how to present yourself, because you went to film school, did that come easier to you?
No. Not one bit. I wish I could say it did. Honestly, I it's kind of like a deer in the headlights when you come into wrestling, and that's the thing, is like, I think everybody is, because you're so captivated in the wrestling part that you forget that it's like it's actually all part of a bigger thing, you know, like the entertainment side. I was such a wrestler's wrestler for so many years. Um, I didn't figure it out probably till about like 5-6 years in when I started acting. Not probably about 4 years in, but I was thinking as a heel kind of a little more, and I started taking it in a little bit more and kind of understanding a little bit. So it took me a little bit longer to kind of get there, but that's also because I also went and got a degree in between all that time at university. So I took a little semi hiatus from wrestling where I took a few months off, and I wouldn't really take many matches.
Well, I mean, it's still important, right? Because I mean, wrestling, and a lot of wrestlers will say this, like, it does kind of have a bit of a limited time to it. Like, it does put a large toll on your body. It's good to have a fallback. Like, anything could happen any day, and it's good to make sure that not only you're taken care of, but if you've got anybody that you love, they want to make sure they're taken care of. Like, it's a sport, and it's a dangerous one, so it's always good to have a fallback.
110%. I mean, that'd be another bit of advice for everybody: get a fallback. Because I did a seminar with Johnny Devine. It was great. It was really good because we got I appreciate it. He tailored a lot of stuff. He was really nice. He tailored a lot of shit towards what I was doing. But he ended up saying, it's like, let's do the math on this stuff. There's about, looking at, like, if you look at the States and Canada and you look around the world, you're looking at like a ton of people who want to be professional wrestlers. Like, you're looking at minimum 100,000. Like, people who actually want to be a paid professional wrestler. Cool. Do you know how many jobs there are in professional wrestling, like full-time jobs? Guess.
I'm gonna say you're probably looking around 600.
Probably about 230.
Oh, damn. Okay, it's even less than that, eh? Oh, jeez.
Yeah, maybe 300. Maybe at the max. What's the stats of that? If you break it all down from 300, let's say like 300.
Yeah, it's 0.03, isn't it? So.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what's the statistics that you're going to be that person that makes it there? What are you going to do to make yourself that 0.03, right? And that's the truth of it, of wrestling. Everybody who comes into it, and I think there's a lot of other people. I don't think a lot of young wrestlers think about this. I didn't think about this. I did actually probably about 2 years in. That's why I went back to university, because I made sure I had a backup. Because, it's not that I didn't fully believe in myself. It's like, I've just seen so many people fully believe in themselves and shit the bed. They have nothing, right? So always have, I think, protect yourself. I would. Statistically, you should protect yourself and take care of yourself. Always first. Take care of your family first, everything first. Make sure you're okay, then come back and do wrestling. That's what I've done. Like, I actually, about 6 years ago, I got this great job. I've been working here now for 6 years, the job I'm currently doing, and it helps me out to do a little bit of wrestling. If I didn't have this job, I wouldn't be able to do half of what I did. It's because I knew taking care of myself was the priority. And I think a lot of other wrestlers should actually realize that too.
That's amazing advice. And and you know what? That's just a good advice that I hear as like a 30 in my 30-year-old. You know what? Just to say to anybody in your 20s, just like, yo, slow down. Like 30 comes fast, and it really comes and hits you, man.
I wouldn't know. 27.
Oh, I know. I mean, you got a couple of years to catch up to me because I'm just an old bones over here, but that's totally fine. How about outside of wrestling? Now, obviously, you don't have to give any specifics, but like, what other things does Adam love in the world? Like, are you a music guy? Do you go see lots of concerts, or do you break dance? What else does Adam Ryder do?
I wish I could say I do a lot. I don't. I really don't. Like, it's funny when you start diving into wrestling a little bit more and you want to get this a bit more serious. It's like you're trying to do everything. Like, these past few months have been a little bit harder for me to do it, but it's like gym, you go work, you end up coming back, you take care of your family, then you end up going wrestling, and then you repeat it over again. And that's all I've really had time for. I thankfully got away last 2 weekends. I do like surfing.
Here you go.
Surfing is a zen moment where I can take a sec and let my brain calm down and kind of just enjoy it. If I catch a good wave and I'm like, I feel accomplished, I'm pretty happy about that. I like surfing. I like, I'd like to say I like traveling. I don't mind traveling. What I really like is I actually traveling and seeing my family. It's just, I like seeing my family. I need to see my family every month kind of thing, but I like traveling to see them. It's always a nice thing for me.
Are they like scattered around North America kind of a thing? You're like, this is this month, or
North America? No, like Ontario, like
okay.
Ottawa, and then maybe Ottawa, but like up north, like way north, like 2 hours north of Prince George north. So I use Prince George as a marker because you at least know what you're in
Well,
Alberta.
yeah, like when after Prince George, it just becomes kind of nothing land, right? Like that's kind of the brink of like there's things on the interior, but after Prince George, it's just
You hit
there's
a wad of like
trees.
you hit a wad of like towns that are between 500 to 5,000 people. That's about it. So I get it.
Yeah, I can't remember. Williams Lake, I think, is out in that area.
Where I wrestled. No, Williams Lake. Yeah, Williams Lake's out that way. I was gonna say it's my first. No, I didn't wrestle Williams Lake. Burns Lake was my first place I
Burns
ever
Lake.
wrestled.
Oh well, tell us a little bit about that before we move into the Q&A section. I would love to ask some questions about your first match. Like, tell us about what the first Adam Ryder match was.
Adam Ryder versus Derek Cross in Calgary.
Hey, I was gonna say that's a name we recognize out here.
Yeah, Derek Cross gave me my first match. He was really good to me. Treated me really well. Took good care of me. Did a match. It was very basic, so I wouldn't screw it up, and I appreciated him for that. Funny part, my tights were supposed to get there. They didn't, so I had to borrow someone else's. And like, it felt so bad wearing someone else's like tights. They're like little baggy shorts, and I was like, I'm not used to this. It's funny. I eventually moved to these little shorts, and I'm like, oh, I love them. But it took a bit of confidence. It did not have the confidence when I first went out there. It's funny because I'm like, you're gonna go like hit these kids' hands and be like, yeah, I'm the baby face. You go to hit the kid's hand, they take it away, and you're like, shit.
You're like, yay me.
So that was it. Like I was like, oh shit. It's like, well, that was a lesson. That's all I thought the second half. Like, that's a fucking lesson. So yeah, I just went and wrestled the match. It was fine. It was a good beginner. Like, it was a good beginner match. Actually, I can't even say good beginner. It was probably friggin' terrible. But
wrestlers always so humble about their early years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't watch any of my old stuff now. I'm just like, oof, that hurts. But it's nice to kind of learn and be like, oh, I'm glad at least where I am now.
Okay, here's my last question before we move into the Q&A section. I think this is going to be like a good question to ask and finish this up with here. But if somebody were to come up to you and be like, hey, you're a professional wrestler. I've never seen really wrestling before. What match of yours would you recommend I go back and watch to kind of understand who Adam Ryder is as a wrestler? What match would you point them to?
Oh, man. I would say the two are going to – I'm giving you two. And it happened in the same weekend.
Wow.
I'm going to give you three.
All right.
It literally happened a month and a half ago, and you're going to learn better who Adam Ryder is in just those three matches.
Let's do it.
It was at NEW. It was me and Josh Alexander for the Impact World Heavyweight Championship.
Right.
Just saying, first person in BC to ever get that. First
hey.
of all.
And only. There you go.
Yeah.
And then
the second would actually be, it happened the next day at Defy in Seattle, was me and Davey Richards. And that one stood out because Davey. So Josh put me over looking a million bucks. Davey put me over looking like $1 million, and that Defy crowd really accepted me after that. And then coming back, I worked WrestleCore against Trey McGill, and just even working Trey McGill, I probably had more so much fun just working him because he's just a chill. It was a chill, easy guy to get to know, but the match was hard hitting and going. I even actually screwed my ankle up in that match, and we just finished it anyways. Like, nope, let's keep going. And so if you want those three matches, it's me and Josh Alexander, me and Davey Richards, and me and Trey McGill. And it was I would 100% go with that.
And that's where you won the WrestleCore Infinity Championship, was from Trey McGill that weekend, correct?
No, I actually won it. I won it against Channing Decker the month before.
Oh, okay.
Me and Channing Decker had a hardcore match, and won it there.
Fantastic. Well, I'm really looking forward to this Saturday. I'm like, I know the type of wrestler that MRB is. I have watched your videos online. I have seen the Josh Alexander match, and I have to say, yeah, it was I'm really looking forward to Saturday. Let's just say we have this Base Brawl show is going to be fantastic. My biggest concern is myself and the heat of Vancouver and the humidity and not melting. So
sunscreen and beer, baby. That's all.
Oh, I'm definitely going to be getting a couple of beers in me. I'm bringing a microphone. So if you see me come up, I'll ask you tons of questions. It should be a good time. And I'm going to have hot dogs. Oh, man, I'm going to enjoy the day. I'm going to have my day in Vancouver. I'm going to enjoy it.
Dude, after I match, I'm coming out to hang out. That's all I'm doing.
You're just like, come hang out. We'll grab a hot dog and we'll have a beer. It'll be a good time. Or a white wine. and with some
We'll
water.
find out. No, white wine's an exclusive today thing.
Oh, okay. It's that's just for the hard actual work days. But when you get to a Saturday, hardcore Granville Island, right? There we go.
I'm actually a red wine guy, man. I love red wine. White wine is just because it was like we're having fish tonight, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna bring it into the interview.
There you go. Well, that's actually I mean, take what you like, right? To be honest, I'm a Scotch guy, so for me, it's just way too expensive to have it as a hobby. So thankfully, I only get to do it on very rare occasions.
Sad. Good man.
All right. Well, so questions out from our audience. I'm going to switch this over if our lovely mods could send over some questions. If you would like, you could take like a minute and run to the washroom or drink some water, whatever you'd like to do. Or we could just continue. I'm just waiting for them. There we go. The questions were already in.
Man, I ain't worried. I'm gonna sip my water here anyways. I've just been doing it throughout the whole thing. I have this giant. Look at this thing. It's literally 3 liters.
It's much bigger than mine. I've got mine to my left and behind over here. It's empty though, and
one of these a day, man. One of these a day.
One of the hardest parts, especially because I'm trying to get healthy again myself, and I'm been going back to the gym and trying to. The hardest part is trying to figure out how not to pee like 30 times a day, getting used to the water again. Because for the first while, it really hits you over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. I found the trick is you stop trying and you just go pee all the time.
You succumb and it happens. I'm getting older. It's gonna happen anyways. I might as well just embrace it now.
Roll with it, man. Can't be 27 forever.
Well, I mean, at this rate, I probably could. I mean, I might as well be. All right, here's the first question, and I told you that this was going to happen. What influence has the all-time classic movie starring Sting, Ready to Rumble, had on your wrestling career?
Well, I've always I will say this, and my favorite quote from when I was wrestling Zicky Dice a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, was we had a spot where everyone was getting choke slammed by Zicky Dice, just ridiculously choke slammed, and and Cobra Kai comes in. And he says, "Now to me, just like Arquette when he was like, crown me," and that was probably my favorite part of that of that night. So I always love Ready to Rumble. It was one of my favorite movies, kind of growing up. And I mean, who didn't love yelling for an object when you got to see boobs?
Oh, absolutely! And then throwing a punch and stuff and knocking them and getting, it's everybody's first encounter.
I do it to this day.
To this day, you're just throwing right hooks. It's important, right? For me, I really love when people do the double axe handle from the top rope to people, because I immediately like, I will rule you, and then he crowns people. I mean, so for me, people are like, double axe handle is such a shitty move. I'm like, it's one of my legit favorite moves because of the king.
I do feel like I sort of point to you and say it.
I'll be there on Saturday. If you see me and you do it, I'll do the thing, and I'll go like, hey, there's the thing. We'll have that moment.
He did the thing.
He did the thing. I'll turn to the guy beside me. I'll be like, he did the thing. Did you see the thing? He did the thing. It'd be like an episode of Seinfeld. It'd be like, what thing? What thing? He's like, he did the thing. See, whenever I talk to somebody my age, I can quote Seinfeld, and they'll know exactly what I'm trying to say. So
There you go.
All right.
I'm sorry for anybody who's too young to know it.
All right. All the new people in here watching us, all those young, what are they called? That Gen Z, Gen Y? I've already forgotten the gens. I'm so old. I'm a something. All right, here's a question. There was recent news coming out that they're looking for a new James Bond that's in his 30s. What would Adam Ryder bring to that role that's unique to him? That's a great question.
It'd probably be my ass shaking ability. I don't think I've ever seen James Bond like really shake his ass enough, but Adam Ryder can really shake his ass enough. So I mean, putting on I don't even need to wear the nice suit. I'll just wear like the Daniel Craig short shorts and just do that. And I think I'd win people over pretty fast.
I like that. Maybe some assless chaps in another scene. You know what I mean? Like, we really got to make sure that people understand you're here to shake that ass.
I'm not much of a chaps guy, but short shorts.
Short shorts. Okay. Yeah. Short shorts are good. That's a good one. And you know what? I don't know other people who would give that answer. So that's a great. All right, here's a good question from our mod shout. If you had to recommend one place to eat in Vancouver, where would it be? And you can't say Pizza Garden.
Okay. I would recommend that you try Donataria in New Westminster. and only try the Boston cream donut if you want. If you like that, perfect. If you don't like it, well, then you're a heathen. But that's what I would suggest. Donutaria, Boston cream donut.
All right. Where is Donataria and how far is it off the SkyTrain?
New Westminster, probably about a 5-minute walk from the SkyTrain, if that.
All right. I'm just saying I got things to hit on the SkyTrain that night. Like I got to hit Uncle Fatty's. I'll go to like Commercial and Broadway, and I can just keep going from there.
MRB says it's like that. There's like better donuts in town, and I'm like, I don't know, man. But I'm like, he did try a lot, so I'm like, okay, he tried a lot of other places. So I'm like, well, maybe I have to trust him on this one. So I don't know, but I know that place. I go out of my way to just have the Boston cream donut. Happy man.
There you go. All right, Donatarian is. What would MRB say? What was his choice? What did he like go to? Like the heel that he is.
That heathen said something else, so I gotta send him a message saying, like, hey,
He's probably like, there's this local place I like. It's called Tim Hortons. It's got great donuts.
dude, I wouldn't doubt that he loves Tim Hortons, so I don't know.
I'm like literally sitting here with a mug that says Tim Hortons on it, but it's got orange juice in it, so it's a little different. All right, here's a good question. Where would you like to wrestle that you haven't had the chance to yet?
PCW in down south, and also I would like West Coast. I'd like West Coast Pro. Would be good to work. Would also like to work Black Label Pro as well. Those would be fun. Those are kind of on my list right now. And I'd like to work AEW.
There you go. Would you say that you're more of an AEW over WWE person, at least these days, in terms of the product?
Oh, of course, this day in the product. I mean, WWE's on its way. I feel like WWE's going to be on its way up again. But it's like, let me say this. This is one thing I fucking hate. And I don't mind being quoted on this one. I fucking hate it. When you go to their application process, when you want to send your stuff in, there's 2 categories. And every wrestler who's applied knows this too. And it drives me fucking insane. You know what the first category is?
For AEW or for WWE?
WWE applicants.
I'm going to assume it says sports entertainer?
No, the first one says college athletes or university athletes.
Okay.
You're like, all right, that's fine. That makes sense. The other one says other. That's it. And it's like,
what are they looking for, I suppose?
And I get it. I see it. But it's also like, well, shit. And, and you can work the system. You can kind of work your way through. Sure. Do whatever. It's still like, it's still fucking stupid.
Just got it to be that all-star running back for the Capilano College or film or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, why don't I go back to college and see if we can do this football thing? Yeah, so it's like that shit drives me insane. But whatever.
Hopefully it changes. Like, I mean, there has been some slight changes, just very, very slight modifications to WWE in the last couple of weeks. I don't know if it'll make that many changes, but I'm excited for the future at the very least.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows?
To me, honestly, and I'll be straight up at saying this, when I came back into wrestling and I started watching it, because it came back in with WWE, it wasn't WWE that I started to watch and fall in love with. It was all NXT, like from like 2016 to like early 2019, late 2018. I was so obsessed with NXT. And to this day, I still think it was.
You missed the Sami Zayn and.
I did miss it. Like, and literally, it was at the end of Finn Balor. No, I did catch Nakamura. So when I went back and I just started in it again, I watched Nakamura Sami Zayn because that match is fucking phenomenal. But like, I watched Nakamura's run, and then I watched Samoa Joe, and then I watched like. Andrade and Bobby Roode and like that whole era. I really loved it, honestly. And
yeah, it's like when I watched Sami Zayn Nakamura live, I was just like I was watching it when it was happening. I was like losing my mind at how good of a match it was, and the crowd and everything. I was like, oh, this is too good. It was enjoyable. It's one of my favorites. One of my favorites too.
Oh, to this day, it's still one of my favorites. Like, I can go back and watch that match. And it's one of those things too, because I really love Sami Zayn as a wrestler. And I remember watching that match because I was just getting back into it, and I was like, okay, this guy's leaving NXT. He just told his story. He's gonna go up to the main roster. My first thought was, this guy is gonna be top of the company in like 2 years. And I hate it because I love that Sami Zayn's on TV and he does great work, and he's doing all the stuff right now with the bloodline and all that kind of stuff. But Sami Zayn is capable of so very much, and
he is. It's like I'd love to see him get that top spot. I don't know if it's ever for him. Unfortunately, it might be, but
It's really not. His story was always best as the underdog, and I went back and watched that time in NXT, and he played that so well. It was fucking beautiful.
yeah, it was.
All right. Well, next question here. So, what was the evolution of the Haida Heartthrob gimmick like? Which is actually a really great question. I should have asked more about this.
No, no worries. No, it's great. So the evolution of it was really during COVID. I was wrestling I just kind of did a gimmick so I got my first time was when it was Tony Baroni. Just wanted me to be a sleaze gimmick like him, and I'm like, but a little different. And I was like, sure, I'll be Adam. It's like, what are you gonna be? I'm like, Adam. I shaved a mustache, and I'm like, Adam Mustache Ryder. That's what we're gonna be. And I just did it for like a kick for the show. And I'm like, okay, cool, this was fun. I'm gonna use it a couple more times in the days to try it out. So I used it for about another 8 months. I just tried it out in different places. I'm like, why not? And then I knew it had a shelf life, but it was more so to try new things out, you know. And I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it, but I was like, I don't want to do something with like this shelf life or with this kind of feel to it. So what I did is during the pandemic, I knew I was like, I'm going to change this anyways. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to change it. And I started looking at my my Haida heritage. I'm Haida from Haida Gwaii, which is on the west coast. It's an island on the west coast here of BC,
Right.
and indigenous. So I ended up looking at it and saying, it's like I always wanted to kind of represent my family. So I was like, it would be great, but I never even thought of. I kind of semi thought about wrestling, but I'm like, I don't like watching like guys like Tatanka. I don't like watching. If you watch every indigenous person, they're like face paint, all this other shit.
It's been a cartoon more than a character, right?
It's fucking nuts. So I'm like, why? Why I don't want to be this? I don't want to be this fucking person. I'm not going to be this person. So I didn't think about doing it. But I watched a guy doing a performance. He was doing his culture's dance, and I really enjoyed just hanging out and like listening to him, and he was really insightful. So I asked him, what do you do? Like, how do you represent? I want to be a bit more present in my community, but also like stand out a little, and like I want to be present in my community a little more and give back and do what I can. How do you show your colors, show who you are? And he's like, through my art. And I'm like, well, obviously my art's wrestling, right? So I started thinking, I'm like, well, maybe I could do this, but instead of, I told like everybody, it's like, I am not going to be a face painted traditional wrestler, traditional indigenous represented wrestler. It's like it's too easy and it's too stereotypical. So I'm not that. So I decided I'm going to still use, I maybe add a mustache rider. Maybe I was that for a while, but there's so many kind of gimmicks that could like go off from that. So I was thinking heartthrob, and I'm like, Haida Heartthrob. This writes itself. This is perfect. So I kind of keep a lot of my kind of stuff I do as like add a mustache rider. I shake my ass a lot. I end up I'll do little things here and there that are a bit more like, I try and dress a little bit more. Like I have a jacket that's like, I'm not gonna lie, probably one of the nicest jackets around, just because it shines like no tomorrow. I have like my traditional art on it though, and then I also my gear, it shines a lot too, stands out a lot, and it has like a lot to it. So put a lot of time into the look and figured that out. It probably took a solid 5 months though to get of planning and figuring it out to actually get to where like this is what I want to do, and then getting the gear developed. That took another 6 weeks right after that, and so I didn't get to actually debut it till probably about end of January. And I actually got to debut it at Defy Wrestling, which is cool. And yeah, it was sick. It was fantastic. It hit off pretty hard, and I was like, well, this is what I'm doing from here on out.
I gotta say, it's doing really well for yourself because like there's giant mountains and a lot of space and like 13-hour drive between us, and never before have I been more in tune with the Vancouver scene because the amount of the promotion has been doing out there. NEW WrestleCore, just absolutely amazing to see, like just how much they're actually putting into the actual promoting, like putting it online, making sure there's that content out there for people.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it, and because of that, I got to see all about Adam Ryder and the Haida Heartthrob, and I got to go and check out matches. So I gotta say, it's working out really well for you, and I do agree that jacket is fucking beautiful.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
Here's another question here from the average pinner. What moves are you working to perfect right now?
Honestly, I'm just doing a lot of my same stuff right now. I've got this roll through cutter that I do from the outside of the ring, where I roll through the ring and catch them with a cutter in the middle.
I've seen you do this, and I don't know how you keep the momentum so smooth because it blows my mind, by the way.
Yeah, I ended up I love that one. I was practicing it for like a couple of years. I took a break from it. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna bring it back, see if I try it out, and then I ended up my other is my Pele kick. It's like I think I have the nicest Pele kick in the business, just the way I set it up, and so I'm trying to make sure that's perfected a lot too. Those are kind of the two. I was doing frog splashes for a while, but honestly, I've dislocated my elbow before. I don't know if you can hear it. That's a pop, and so I don't do frog splashes as much anymore because I'm so worried about blowing my elbow out that instead I do swantons now. So adapt, you know.
Learn and adapt, right? It doesn't involve your elbow as much. Just
Yeah.
smack your back into things instead.
Just breaks my hips,
Yeah,
but whatever.
yeah, whatever. It's all good. All right, here's another quick question, or the last one here for the day. What kind of fantasy hockey tips did Bret Hart give you when you had a chance to talk to him at the Romero Rumble?
Fantasy hockey tips.
That's a deep question. I don't know how the hell he got that one, but
I can't say that was a very deep question. That's a lot of assumption right there too. Uh, you know what? I wish I could give you a smart ass answer on that. Oh God, I can't even think of anything. Maybe he said maybe that was his way of kind of getting me to invest in the Calgary Hitmen. I don't know, but no, I think I didn't. I can't say he gave me any great fantasy hockey tips. He gave me some good advice in my match, which was good, so I was happy about that. But yeah, not so much hockey.
not
Wrong
so much.
season too.
Yeah, it ended basically at that time. It
Yeah,
was a very upsetting year for Calgary. I was a little bit more upsetting for Vancouver, I suppose, but
yeah. You get used to it.
all right, well, yeah, in Vancouver especially. I'm sorry, I lived there. I have to deal with it as well. But I was the Calgary Flames fan living in Vancouver, so anytime I would go to a Canucks game, I would be wearing red. And oh man, Vancouver just shit on me constantly whenever I would wear my Flames jersey.
That'd be some heat there.
It was, yeah, absolutely. And I would go to games often because at the time I was dating a girl and she was a big Canucks fan, so I would be going with a Canucks fan, and they were like, "You two aren't gonna last." They were right, but
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Well, actually, I'll end it with a couple of extra quick questions here.
Please,
Yeah, exactly. I'm having fun, anyways. Now, like, do you like other sports at all? Like, I know you said you don't really have time for like hobbies and stuff, but like, did you follow other sports? Are you a hockey person?
No, I'm as far as a hockey person. My dad, he loves Toronto Maple Leafs, so I'm used to disappointment there too.
It's been consistent in your life with hockey, I suppose.
Yeah, it's 110%. There was a year in 2000 and I think two, and that's when they got to the semifinals, and I remember that. And that was all because of Cujo back in the day, first Joseph. And now, though, I don't know anything. After that disappointment, like, well, it's all done now. So I literally have not followed. I wish I could say I followed something else. I follow TV shows. That's about as far as I go.
What are
I
some of your favorite TV shows then? I mean, if you follow those.
ever or are
Yeah,
we
or
talking
like, what are you watching? But I guess maybe even what your favorite is, because that's a good question to ask.
just finished watching Better Call Saul. Loved Breaking Bad, one of my favorites. I loved. I'm a big fan. Watching a show right now called The Bear on Disney Plus. Great show. It's just very stressful. If you've ever worked in a restaurant, it's the most stressful time of your life. That show, I watch it and I'm like, I'm getting PTSD, and it's like amazing. It's amazing in that regard.
So you like really high stress shows by the sounds of it, like ones that
When
give you
I
full
say it, I'm like,
anxiety.
yeah, I guess so.
Because all you said are shows that are just like anxiety riddled shows that just make you go, "What's happening?" So
Oh God. Yeah, I love The Boys, things like that too. I mean, like
there you go.
those are kind of my shows. I like those ones the most.
Fantastic. What about like your all time show? Like if you could go back and only rewatch one thing, I suppose.
All right, if I could go rewatch something from start to finish again and just kind of feel it, movie or TV.
Let's do both. Let's do both. Why not?
Oh. If I could rewatch something and get the feeling I got the first time, I would watch it's really tough for TV because I loved watching Breaking Bad. I watched from I joined at season 3, and what made that show so cool was uh, actually listening to everybody online with their theories. I'm like, this is a brilliant theory, and and you're listening, and it's like, oh, it went a different direction. Oh, that's cool. So it was more of the interactive stuff. I like that a lot. But a movie, the only movie that I've ever watched where I was like, the first experience is amazing because I didn't really watch anything going in, was The Dark Knight. And when I watched it, I'm like, oh, this movie is blowing my friggin' mind. Just how entertaining it was and how it wrapped up. I'm like, this is a great movie. I can't not enjoy this. It's the only one where I like went in so blind where I'm like, oh, whatever, I'll try it out, and I loved it. So I would watch that one again for the first time.
To this day, the day that I watched The Dark Knight come out in theaters is one of the most stressful days of my entire life, because prior to it, I was in an apartment building. I was living, you know exactly where I am. I was off Kingsway near Patterson. There's like a whole bunch of high rises there. I lived in one of the high rises, and I was going swimming. And I was like, we have got like 2 to 3 hours until The Dark Knight starts, and we were going to go watch it at Metrotown. So I was going to go to Metrotown and watch The Dark Knight. And I'm swimming with my roommate and all that kind of stuff, and we go upstairs, and we're about to get to the court, like to our apartment, and the doors to the elevator open, and we're there in our swimsuits, and like all I've got is my keys, and I drop my keys down the elevator shaft right outside my apartment, and it's like a Saturday night, so there's nobody at the actual office, and I don't have a phone on me.
Story.
Right? And I'm like, we've got tickets to The Dark Knight here in like 2 hours, and we don't even have shirts. Like, we're totally fucked, right? So we eventually get a hold of somebody on the street. They let us use their phone. Thankfully, I remembered our friend's phone number. We give him a call. He's like trying to figure everything out. He's like, yeah, sure, I'll come pick you guys up. I'll bring you some clothes. And I'm like 5'8". My roommate's like 5'8". Our friend is like 6'6" and a tank, like 350 pounds. And all this kind of stuff. But he's like, I'll come pick you guys up. You guys can come stay at my house for the night. You have to wait till Monday. And I didn't have anything. I couldn't do anything. So, but eventually we had somebody who came in and let us into the apartment. We finally got a hold of somebody. We called our friend. We're like, don't come. We get dressed as fast as we can. Try to rush to Metrotown, which if anybody's driven on Kingsway, it doesn't matter. A Saturday night when you're trying to go see The Dark Knight, go fucking lug driving down Metrotown as fast as you can.
Yeah.
So we finally get there. The only seats left in the theater are like front row to the left. So I'm watching The Dark Knight like this. Still one of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my life. Still one of the greatest. That's my day.
Yeah. I actually it was the only movie I went to 3 times, and I didn't mean to, but I was like, the first time, like, yeah, then friends at home, like, yeah, I'll go again. And then it's like asking a third time, like, sure, why not? I was really hungover. I'm like, let's go do it. So
it was worth it. That was such a good movie. One thing, I don't know if you've seen it, but in my opinion, because you love high-stress television, my favorite season of all television is season 4 of Dexter.
That was good.
Yeah, I liked season 4. I don't know if you saw it, but that was with the Trinity Killer, and that season was like...
Brilliant. Oh, man, I love John Lithgow.
Oh, right? Good. So good. Oh, absolutely. So that, to me, is like the ultimate season of stress TV, so... But you already know all about it, so...
Stress TV. Now that I know this, I'm like, oh, man, what does that say about me?
You have to get like, you do a high-stress thing in wrestling, you like your high-stress TV. Who knows, maybe like at night you cuddle teddy bears to sleep, and you're like, this is my safe spot. Who knows?
Don't tell my secrets, man. Tell my
secrets. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. That's all my knowledge. All right, here's a last quick question for you. You're on the road, okay? You've got a couple of people in the car. You're going from a show. Let's say it's 8 hours away. What song are you throwing on the radio because you're in charge of music?
Oof. No direct song, man. I'm really, as much as I wish I could say about music, man. It takes. I'm not gonna lie, one of the things that's hardest to crack for me is my music. You hear my music, it's like either it's a long trip or it's I trust you. So it takes me a while to kind of crack and actually show people my music. I wouldn't know what song to actually show.
I like that. I'm a weird person too, because like whenever people are like, oh, I would put this on, they'll be like, what would you put on? I'm like, I don't know, classical. I'm a big fan. I'm a fan of the opera. I'd play through the entire opera probably. Like that's the type of music I would listen to. 80s probably.
You just made me want to pull like this semi-rib on people just to see how they'd react. Is just do Alexander. I'd love to do Hamilton the musical now.
Oh, do it. Absolutely. So many great songs in Hamilton.
But I imagine someone listening to it for the first time is like, what the fuck is
It is interesting, especially in terms of a musical, but I fucking love Hamilton. I'm the weird guy though. Like I love musical theater. I love going to like plays and stuff like that. My favorite time ever, I went to New York and I got to see Of Mice and Men on Broadway as performed by James Franco and Chris O'Dodd, which was absolutely insane and amazing. It was so good.
That does sound fun, actually. That sounds a lot of fun.
Yeah, anyways, thank you so much for joining me here today. We've been going for a little bit here. Can you tell people where they can find you? Give your plugs. Let them know all about Adam Ryder.
You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all on Adam Ryder HHT, whatever it is. Facebook.com/Adam Ryder HHT, Instagram /Adam Ryder HHT, Twitter /Adam Ryder HHT. So yeah, Haida Heartthrob. Feel free to jump on there, follow me. I'd love it and I appreciate it. Ask me questions. I'm around. I'll usually respond. If I don't, it's because it's usually gone somewhere else. But no, I'm pretty cool about it. Next shows I'm going to be at, let's list them off. I'm going to be at NEW on, I just want to say July. In August here, 21st, I believe. Will be our 21st.
20th.
20th. That's why I had to ask you.
I'll be there, so I know.
August 20th will be at NEW at Nat Bailey Stadium. I'm going to be at Love Pro Wrestling on August 26th against Michael Allen, Richard Clark. And then I'm against, and then on the 28th, I'm actually heading down south to Defy in Seattle, which will be good. I got a few shows in September. I'm not sure if I can fully announce, but I can announce I do have I have a WrestleCore show on September 10th. It's a free show in Vancouver, and then on September 16th we got NEW at the Commodore. That'll be sick. And then all the way near the end, I know I have a couple other between, but let's just start with this one. I get Me and Alan Angels at Prestige Wrestling and September 25th. I'm looking forward to that one.
That's fantastic. Great memory, by the way. Calling him Michael Four Names is amazing. I've never heard that before.
I'm calling that from here on out. I said it yesterday. I'm like, Michael Four Names. Oh, that's it.
I was going to say, you're taking on both Prairie's Michael Richards because you've got Blaze and then you've got Alan Richard Clarks over coming in here as well. As he likes to say, the longest name in professional wrestling. So,
but I was making it nice and short. Michael Four Names.
Michael Four Names. It's in here now. It can't leave. That's just in there now. So, but thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. This was such a fun little conversation, and I really look forward to Saturday. I'll definitely have to come see you. We'll grab a picture and grab a hot dog or something.
I'm down, dude. Sounds great.
All right, but you have yourself an absolutely wonderful night, buddy, and you. It'll be the chant. Oh, we'll do that, Mike. Go for it, Ames. That'll be great. We'll do that. Perfect. But okay, you have yourself a wonderful night, buddy.
You too, bud.
All right, cheers. Bye-bye. A big thank you once again to Adam Ryder for joining me here today. Seriously, I was so much fun getting to know more about him, learning more about his story, learning more about the Vancouver scene, and then actually getting to see him wrestle live with my own eyes against Michael Richard Blaze twice in the course of 1 week. Seriously, so friggin' talented, and I can't wait to watch Adam Ryder some more, and hopefully I'll get to see him come out to Alberta some more as well. Or even I get maybe to go out to Vancouver some more. That'd be really great as well. Anyways, that does it for me here today. If you like what you heard, remember to check us out on our social medias. I am at Wrestlesode on Twitter. I am also at Facebook.com/Wrestlesode. You guys can check out the Canadian Wrestling Archive as well as all of our amazing sponsors, the Wrestling Rodeo. If you guys want to have any wrestlers interviewed from the Canadian scene here, don't forget to leave a comment below. Hit the like button, subscribe, and I also have yourself a wonderful day. I will be back in a week. Bye.